wind howled, and the snowstorm raged fiercely as the Rangers trudged through the thick snow. Visibility was near zero, and the temperature had plummeted to life-threatening levels. Yet, in the midst of the storm, something caught their eye. A small, frozen figure lay motionless, barely visible under a blanket of snow. As they rushed closer, their breath caught in their throats. It was a dog, its fur caked in ice, its body still, as if frozen in time. But what the dog was protecting, hidden beneath the snow, would leave everyone in complete disbelief. This was no ordinary dog, and the discovery would be one of the most incredible moments in their lives. It was a cold winter morning when the Rangers began their routine patrol through the mountainous wilderness. The snowstorm had come in unexpectedly, catching many off guard. The blizzard raged on relentlessly, swirling the snow in every direction and making it nearly impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. The Rangers, however, were seasoned veterans of these kinds of storms. They knew the risks and had trained for these conditions. But even for them, this storm was unlike any they had faced before. The Rangers had been assigned to ensure that no hikers or travelers were caught off guard by the worsening weather. They were tasked with checking abandoned trails and ensuring that no one was stranded. As they made their way through the snow-covered terrain, the storm intensified. Visibility was near zero, and their movements were slow and cautious. Suddenly, one of the Rangers noticed something unusual in the distance. Amidst the howling wind and thick snow, there was a dark shape lying on the ground. At first, it appeared to be just a patch of snow or debris, but as they drew closer, the shape became clearer. It was a dog. The animal lay motionless, its fur frosted over with ice, and its body appeared lifeless, frozen in place by the harsh conditions. The Rangers' heart sank. They had seen many casualties of the storm before, birds, squirrels, and even other animals. But this was different. There was something about this dog that told them it had been there for more than just the hours the storm had been raging. It had endured something far more profound. As the Rangers approached cautiously, they noticed the dog's protective posture. It wasn't simply lying down. The dog's body was positioned in a way that shielded something beneath it, buried under layers of snow. At that moment, the Rangers knew that the dog had been serving a greater purpose, and this was no ordinary animal. There was a deeper mystery here, one that they had yet to uncover, but which would soon unfold before their eyes. The dog they had found in the snowstorm was no ordinary stray. In fact, it was a trained search and rescue dog, one of the finest the Rangers had ever encountered. It had been part of a local team that specialized in disaster relief and rescue missions. Its handler, a seasoned veteran named Lieutenant Jameson, had worked alongside the dog for years. Together, they had braved countless storms, avalanches, and perilous situations, saving many lives in the process. The dog, named Max, was a German shepherd known for its exceptional intelligence and unmatched loyalty. Max had been chosen for the search and rescue team because of its keen sense of smell, sharp instincts, and ability to remain calm under pressure. Over the years, Max had built a reputation as one of the best dogs in the field, never hesitating to put itself in danger to save others. But what made Max truly remarkable was its bond with its handler. Lieutenant Jameson and Max shared an unspoken connection, a partnership forged through trust and experience. The two of them had trained together for years, learned to communicate without words, relying on each other's strengths to get through even the most difficult rescues. However, the storm that day had separated them. Max's handler had been caught in a sudden avalanche while on a mission to find a missing hiker. Jameson had been knocked unconscious and, despite his injuries, had been unable to continue. But Max wasn't about to leave his side. Despite the overwhelming conditions, the dog refused to leave its handler. It stayed by Jameson's side, protecting him and waiting for help to arrive. When the Rangers arrived, they discovered that Max had been on its own for hours, perhaps even longer. Its frozen body was evidence of its determination and loyalty. The Rangers soon realized that the dog had not only survived the storm, but had also managed to protect something far more valuable than itself, a life. Max's actions that day were a testament to the bond between animals and humans, a bond that transcended everything, even death. As the Rangers continued to clear the snow from around Max's frozen body, the suspense grew. What could the dog have been protecting in such extreme conditions? The mystery had deepened with every passing second, and the Rangers were on edge. Their hands moved quickly but gently as they dug through the thick layers of snow, careful not to disturb the dog's protective position. Max lay almost motionless, its eyes glazed over but still alert. It was clear that the dog had fought against the elements for hours, perhaps even longer. The Rangers felt a deep sense of respect for the animal as they worked to uncover whatever Max had been shielding. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the last of the snow was cleared away, and the object beneath Max was revealed. To their shock, it wasn't just another piece of debris or another casualty of the storm. It was a small human child, curled up in a fragile, shivering heap. The child was wrapped in a thin, tattered blanket, barely visible under the mound of snow. The Rangers gasped in disbelief. How could a child have ended up in the middle of a snowstorm alone? And why was Max guarding it so fiercely? The child's face was pale, and the Rangers could tell that it had been exposed to the elements for a long time. But miraculously, despite the harsh conditions, the child was still breathing, albeit weakly. The child's small, frozen body was a clear indication that it had been in the snow for hours, perhaps longer. It was nothing short of a miracle that the child had survived. But the real miracle, the one that would leave the Rangers stunned, was how Max had managed to protect the child so effectively. The dog had placed its own life at risk, curling itself around the child, blocking the snow, and keeping it warm as much as possible. As the Rangers carefully lifted the child into their arms, they looked back at Max, who seemed to collapse in exhaustion. It was clear that Max had given everything it had to protect the child. The Rangers realized that this was no ordinary rescue. It was a bond between two souls, an animal and a human, that could not be easily explained. Max had done something no one would have expected, and the discovery would go down in history as one of the most remarkable acts of loyalty and courage. As the Rangers carefully moved the child to safety, they couldn't help but wonder about the circumstances that led to this extraordinary scene. How had a child ended up alone in the wilderness, with only a dog to protect them? They knew there had to be a backstory, and it wasn't long before the pieces started to come together. After a quick assessment, it became clear that the child was the daughter of a family that had been camping in the area. The parents, experienced outdoors enthusiasts, had ventured into the wilderness despite the impending storm. Tragically, they had underestimated the power of nature. Their camp had been hit by an avalanche, and both parents had been killed instantly. But the child, remarkably, had survived. The child, who was later identified as Emily, had been separated from her parents during the avalanche. In a stroke of luck, she had somehow found shelter under a small outcrop of rocks. But the storm soon closed in, and Emily was left alone in the harsh, freezing cold. Max, the loyal dog, had found her by pure chance. Guided by its instinct and training, Max had searched through the snow, following Emily's faint scent. When the dog found her, it did what any loyal companion would do. It stayed by her side and kept her warm through the night. The Rangers were in awe of the bond between Max and the child. They couldn't comprehend the depths of Max's loyalty. The dog had not only kept Emily alive, but had protected her from the storm's bitter cold, preventing her from freezing to death. Max had given everything to ensure Emily's safety. In the end, the Rangers managed to get Emily to safety, but the real hero of the story was Max. The revelation of what the dog had been protecting left everyone in stunned silence. It was a powerful reminder of the depth of animal loyalty, and it would be a story that would stay with the Rangers for the rest of their lives. The rescue of Emily and the discovery of Max's selfless devotion to her was a story that would resonate with everyone who heard it. The bond between animals and humans is often underestimated, but Max's actions that day prove that animals are capable of extraordinary acts of love, loyalty, and sacrifice. After the rescue, the Rangers returned to their station, their minds racing with the incredible events they had witnessed. They had seen many things in their careers, but nothing quite like this. Max had gone above and beyond the call of duty, saving a life in a way that few could have imagined. Max's action sparked a wave of admiration and awe throughout the rescue community. The dog was hailed as a hero, and its story was shared across the country. Max's handler, Lieutenant Jameson, eventually recovered from his injuries And he, too, was overwhelmed with gratitude for the dog's incredible loyalty and courage. The story of Max and Emily serves as a powerful reminder of the unbreakable bond between animals and humans. It shows that even in the most dire circumstances, animals will step up to protect those they care for, often putting their own lives on the line. For the Rangers, this experience was a turning point, a reminder that, in the face of nature's fury, there are moments of profound heroism and kindness. They would never forget the dog that saved a life in the middle of a snowstorm, and they would always remember the lessons it taught them: loyalty, sacrifice, and the incredible bond between humans and animals.